Have you ever, thought about a serial killer so meticulous that he could stay hidden for over a decade?
Oh, absolutely. It's chilling to think about.
Yeah, well, it's not just a thought experiment this time. It's the reality of Israel Keys.
Israel Keys.
And
Wow.
we're going deep into his world today through this book, American Predator.
Oh, by Maureen Callahan. Right. I've heard about this one.
Bam!
Heavy stuff.
Really heavy. This book is like a roadmap, through the mind of a killer. But what's so crazy is how he turned murder into this, planned cross-country operation.
Really? Like he was going on a road trip.
It's seriously a terrifyingly twisted road trip. And, get this, unlike a lot of serial killers, Keyes chose victims randomly.
So there's no pattern, no type.
Nope. Nearly impossible to predict. That's what makes his story so unique and honestly so disturbing.
Wow. So where do we even start with a guy like this?
Well, I think the best place to start is with the case that unraveled it all, Samantha Koenig's disappearance.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about that. Wasn't she abducted from a coffee stand?
Exactly. 18 years old, just at work in Anchorage, Alaska, 2012. It was all caught on security footage.
Must have been terrifying footage.
Absolutely chilling. And initially, the police had next to nothing to go on.
So how did they catch him?
Well, Samantha's disappearance, as awful as it was, wasn't just a local thing. Keyes, he demanded a ransom.
A ransom? So it became a federal case?
Exactly. That brought in the FBI, and the search expanded nationwide.
Makes sense. But still, how did they find him? Across the whole country?
Well, that's where technology comes in. They meticulously tracked the financial transactions, related to Samantha's debit card.
Ah, so they followed the money?
Yep, all the way to Keyes in Texas.
Yeah.
It's almost like, a modern-day version of those breadcrumb trails.
Right, right. Leaving a digital trail. But what happened when they got to him? Did he deny everything?
Well, that's the crazy part. Instead of denying it, he confessed.
He confessed. Just like that.
Well, there's a twist. He was deliberately vague, wouldn't give up all the details, wouldn't say who all his victims were or where they were.
So he was still trying to control the situation, even while in custody.
Exactly. It's like he was playing a twisted game with the authorities. And Callahan really digs into this in the book.
What does she say about his motivation? What was driving him?
Well, from what Callahan writes, Keyes seemed to get, this perverse satisfaction from outsmarting everyone. Like, he saw it as this intellectual challenge.
He thought he could outsmart the FBI.
It seems that way. And by being vague with his confessions, it was his way of exerting control, even behind bars.
That's scary. It's like he thought he was winning, even when he was caught.
Right. And then there's the whole thing about the kill kits.
Mule kits, what are those?
So Keyes had these packages, horrifying packages, full of weapons and tools, and he planted them all over the country ahead of time.
Wait, so he planned these murders way in advance?
Yes. The level of premeditation is insane. These kits allowed him to travel all over and commit murders without leaving a trace.
Wow, that's next level.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it shows you how meticulous he was. But it also exposes a weakness in law enforcement, especially
true.
across state lines.
Yeah, I can imagine. It must have been so hard to connect the dots.
Exactly. He exploited those gaps, took advantage of how decentralized the system is.
It makes you wonder, how do you even catch a guy like that? What can law enforcement do?
That's the million-dollar question, right? So we've talked about how he did it, but what about the why? What does the book tell us about his psychology?
Well, Callahan paints a picture of a man who was incredibly calculating, but had zero remorse.
Zero.
It seems so. He wasn't driven by passion, rage, any of that. Just this cold desire to kill. There's this chilling quote in the book. He says he felt this sense of power and control when he killed.
Ugh, it's so disturbing to think about. And, I think the most unsettling part of his whole story is that randomness. He had no type. Men, women, different ages, races. He just chose them based on opportunity.
That's what makes him so terrifying, right? You can't predict him. There's no pattern. It throws everything we think we know about profiling out the window.
Totally. Imagine you're an investigator trying to prevent the next murder. Where do you even start?
It's impossible. It makes you realize that evil, it doesn't always fit into a neat little box.
It doesn't. So we've covered a lot. We've gone from a missing girl in Alaska to a nationwide manhunt to a killer unlike any other. American Predator takes you deep into Israel Keyes' mind, but it also leaves you with more questions than answers.
Definitely. Like, how many more victims are out there? Keyes hinted that there were others we don't know about.
It's a horrifying thought. He took those secrets with him, but it leaves this chilling possibility that his reign of terror was even worse than we know.
Exactly. It makes you wonder if there are other keys out there operating in the shadows.
It's a chilling thought to end on, but it's a reality we have to face. Sometimes evil is just random, and that's maybe the scariest part of all.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining me on this incredibly dark but important deep dive.
My pleasure, though dark is putting it lightly.
No kidding. Until next time, keep those lights on, folks. You never know what's lurking in the shadows.
Good advice.